What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 52. Second week of doing this live. We got pretty good feedback based upon last week's episode. Yeah, so we're going to do it again. What's up, Zarnik? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I've tried Battlefield.
Yeah. You enjoying it?
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, me too.
It's a buggy mess, but damn, it's fun.
It's
so fun.
It's super rough. But I think there's a lot of potential there. It's my favorite Battlefield since Battlefield 4. I'll say that.
I'd say since Battlefield 3.
Okay. That's a big statement.
Yep.
I
enjoyed 4, but I felt like 4 took about a year and a half before it was where I really enjoyed it. I already think 2042 is like almost there. If they get it running well, because right now that's the biggest thing, at least for me. I think we should easily be able to run that game at 150. Like it's pretty, but it's not like mind-blowingly pretty, right?
No. My biggest problem with the game, one of my biggest problems with the game is the UI. That UI is horrendous.
Yep.
Horrendous. So after a game, when you unlock multiple things, have you noticed, like, if you click on the thing to like
it goes away.
It goes to the next thing in the line. Like you click on like a grip that you unlocked in order to find out more information about it, and it skips to the one behind it.
I hate it. Like, you can easily see that UI was not it was not meant for having a mouse.
Oh,
it's the same when you play Hazard Zone. The patch that they're doing, the whole day one patch here in, I don't know, 1 or 2 days, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. There's a patch coming. We already know like half the patch notes. So they're changing, you know, in Hazard Zone, when you want to lock in a character, you have to press space, right?
Yeah.
They're changing that so you can do it with your mouse now.
Thank God. Thank God.
I think a lot of those things were with a controller in mind, and it made sense with a controller, but it just, when you have a mouse, there's some things that would be nice to be able to do.
Guys, we're going to get into some Siege stuff. We have some news as far as the invitation fans and stuff like that, the new season. But I think we're both enjoying Battlefield right now. I want to talk about Hazard Zone specifically. What do you think about Hazard Zone?
I have way too much fun in that. There are like tiny little things that I'd like to see changed. The vehicles are just busted. They're just too good.
Yeah.
The 30 mil vehicle, we won, I don't know, like 5 or 6 runs in a row where we had either 2 or 3 vehicles in a 4-stack. Like, you can't lose.
Yep.
We had, I think we extracted with like either 15 or 16 drives, killed every team on the map and all the AI, and we always go to the first extraction to make sure no one extracts, and then we stay in and go to the second one, right?
Yeah.
The vehicles are too strong.
Way too strong.
Yeah. I feel like there should be a third extractor.
You need vehicles in order to get around the map quickly. So vehicles should stay, but guns on vehicles should probably go.
Yeah.
And does that mean that you only have the Cybertruck? Could they do because the Cybertruck's not as fast? It would be nice. It would be nice to have the Hummer, but without the gun on top, personally.
Yeah, or the ATVs.
The ATVs are pretty fast. Yeah, that makes sense.
That could be neat as well.
Yep.
I don't know. I'd like it to be a little bit longer, because I feel like they're a little too fast. It's 14 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes, because you spawn in, you have 7 minutes between each extraction.
Yeah.
And the second one is like end done. If you don't make it there, it's over. I would like if we could get up to like 20-25 minutes per run. Just so you have a little bit more time.
I hadn't thought of that. I kind of like that it's a bit compressed. So what do you think about the number of players and AI on the map? How do you like? Are you okay with that?
Yeah. There's what, 7 other teams, right? 8 teams.
I guess it would be 7 other teams. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's fine. We haven't had an issue of being or feeling like we're getting third or fourth party too much.
True.
The fights generally seem to be fair, right? Like, you engage someone and then maybe someone else gets involved, but it's at a time where you're already calling in other people, and the AI can be a little annoying.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't feel like you ever lose because of the AI. It's just there as a little nuisance, right? But honestly, it's such a fun game mode.
I think
It's still fun.
I think there's been times where I've been in a good 4 stack where we've been really leveraging the vehicles and it's felt too easy to me. I
Mhm.
don't know if that'll be fixed once more people are playing it. Is there skill-based matchmaking in the background? How is that all going to work? But I feel like they they need to do something about that. And what you mentioned about the first extraction is an opportunity for them too. They should let you know, like at the end of the game, you should get some type of a bonus or at least notification if you prevented any other team from extracting. If no other team extracted other than your team or you or whatever, you should get some type of a bonus or something. And that
Yeah.
would incentivize people really pushing the action at that first extraction point.
Like
Because I
we,
feel
we would
like,
be horrible and have one of our four people extract on the first extraction, because if you do that, you're guaranteed that you get the survival, even if you don't make the second one. So you go there and you fight it. You make sure no one else extracts. You send one person out with 3 drives or 5 drives, whatever, and then you go and fight the last one. Even if you all die there, you still progressed to unlock your secondary tactic
yeah. Do
because
you,
you made the extraction.
I
There's a
also
few things that need
I
to be
feel
fine tuned.
like I feel like it's a bit too easy to redeploy. It feels like you can always redeploy. Now, granted, you do have the marker on you, but if you're in a position where it's you and one other team left, I
I
don't
mean, we
know.
hunt them down. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
shoot
I
at them
guess
with
that is the
vehicles.
point. Like you've got to finish. You got to wipe the squads, or else
Yeah,
they're gonna come back. So I guess
and
that,
also try not to like when they get downed, leave them downed. Don't kill them.
yeah. Now, granted,
That's a
you can choose to
much better
bleed
tip.
out, right?
Yeah, you can, but at
So
least you can tell when they choose to do it.
right.
Because plus you get a squad wipe notification when you wipe the whole squad, right? I mean, there's a few balance things. The SVK is too strong,
Yeah. Oh,
and
dude,
the
the
PP 20.
PP. That's
Yeah,
okay. Here's where I'm at with the PP. I think first of all, I hate Bloom. I wish they would
yeah.
just get rid of Bloom. Um, I've heard, and this just could be a Twitter urban legend. I've heard that the SMGs are not affected by Bloom like the other guns are, and that's why the PP feels so strong. Is because it's got that huge mag and there's no Bloom. Now,
That's
okay, but no,
well. Wait, so Bloom? You mean bullet spread,
I
right?
mean bullet. I mean that the bullet doesn't go necessarily where your reticle is.
Yeah, but so every gun in the entire in Battlefield has that, like 100%.
Are you sure that the
Because,
SMGs do?
yes, because
Okay.
yes, because otherwise your crosshair wouldn't get bigger. Like
Crosshair. Okay.
yeah, so if you're hip firing, your crosshair gets bigger. That's your bullet spread, right? It's
Right.
increasing. And also if you shoot at range with a PP, your bullets are gonna go like everywhere. The problem is just that the ARs are not accurate at all compared to the damage they do, and I feel like any range where the AR is good, the SMGs are just better.
Because you're landing more bullets and you
Um,
got a 60 round mag. Because that's a
yeah,
big thing with the ARs is that the time to kill in the game, especially if you run into somebody with armor, you might not land enough bullets to get a kill. But with the PP, it's just like I'm just dumped. Yeah, I might be doing less damage per bullet, but I've got 60 of them, and I'm landing
yeah, and
most of them.
it's not a lot less damage either.
Right.
Like I think time to kill is faster in all the SMGs than it is on any of the ARs.
Right.
If you're within like any range where you'd realistically want to shoot anyway. And then you have the SVK, which is a 2-shot kill at any range, no matter what.
Right.
Like
Right.
that one is busted. It makes no sense to ever bring a sniper, not even the 50 cal, because if we have a full squad, like we ran 4 people with SVKs. Whenever you see another team and you're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, shoot, boom, the entire team dead.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That was a bit
But
busted.
it's a nice take on the battle royale format. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think if they tweak it some, it could be really, really good. I think they need to up the prices. It doesn't once you get like one extraction with like
You have
10
infinite.
drives, yeah,
Yeah.
the money doesn't even play a factor anymore. So they need to do
But
something with that as well.
I don't know about you, but like the guns I'm buying they don't like the I think the SVK is like $400 or $300 or something. Like
I
that's it.
I buy the PP for 250 and
Yeah.
like I
And you
don't
don't
even
need anything else. Then
right.
one squad redeploy, right? Maybe an M5 if like you wanna deal with the vehicles, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it's really fun. Like sure, they need a lot of tweaking, but I haven't had that much fun in a Battlefield game in a long time. And there's something about it not being competitive, but still being small scale. There's something awesome about no chat.
yeah.
Like There's no toxicity. It doesn't exist.
Are you saying no voice chat or no
No
text
all
chat?
chat. Like
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
you're
the
never worried about communicating with the other team, just your own.
Yeah,
It's
the
really
voice
nice.
chat's pretty frustrating. I've tried to solo queue it a couple times. I've extracted once as a solo queue, which I feel like I deserve a trophy with. Getting an extraction in Hazard Zone as a solo queue player is interesting. But
I haven't tried a solo.
especially without chat, you have to type everything. So I don't know. As far as the main game though, hovercrafts are also busted. They've got to do something with the hovercrafts. They're way
As
too
long as they
easy.
never fix the climbing up the skyscraper.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
They can never take that away
You
because
can
we went all the way up the top of the side of a building. I jumped off the building and I landed on some dude's face.
Mm.
Like I flew from F1 to B2 or something and
Yeah.
literally landed on top of a guy. If they should never take that away. Take all the guns away from the hovercraft. I don't care. Just allow me to do that.
But they should remove the ability for you to drop vehicles on top of buildings, in my opinion. If the hovercraft wants to climb up there, call-ins completely.
Yes.
But then how would you get the ranger in? How would you get the dog in?
Just spawn at the base, or maybe it requires your entire squad to call one in. Or
yeah,
like maybe you have to have like 3 people next to it. The rangers are busted as well, man. Like,
yeah,
we
in Hazard Zone
we had like 2 or 3 ranger. Even in normal, like, you go up on one spot on a roof or something, you call 3 rangers in, and you just hide and let the rangers like wall hack everything.
Yeah.
And I think the calling things in, the problem is you can do behind the enemy, right?
Yeah, that is, and then all of a sudden you get one person with a wingsuit jump off the top of a building. You're now completely behind the enemy team, and you call in a hovercraft. Yeah, that's a bit weird. I agree.
Yeah. Wingsuit is so fun though.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with Battlefield. I'm interested to see the full release. I think it would be interesting to see them just make Hazard Zone free to play. Like kind of like Halo. Ooh. Halo did with the multiplayer is free to play, but the campaign's coming later. Like, what if Battlefield just made Hazard Zone free to play? That could be interesting.
That might actually be a move, yeah. I played Halo for the first time in my entire life yesterday.
I've never played it either. I downloaded it. I haven't played it yet. What'd you think?
I understand why it was fun on console. But it's shitting on my arena shooter dreams.
What do you mean?
So the movement is very slow compared to what I'm used to from other arena shooters like Quake, Unreal, stuff like that. It's very it's very chunky. It just doesn't feel fast paced. And then there's the shield. I keep shooting for headshots, but it doesn't do anything until the shield breaks, and then you can get your headshot.
That would be frustrating.
That kind of bothers me because in Quake you do your weapon swap and you have a massive amount of weapons, and it's all about hitting 7 damage with a lighting gun, then swapping to shotgun, shooting once, and then going to your minigun. It like those rotations really matter. But I was very surprised in Halo that you keep regenerating your shield after a couple of seconds, and then whatever damage has been dealt to you is just reset. So it was more about just landing shots than about being accurate. It didn't really matter where you were shooting as long as you break the shield. And then the grenade spam is insane. That actually didn't bother me. That was kind of fun, but it was just.
Well, I think it's very clear that the meta is going to be controller play. Like even people playing on PC, a lot of them I've seen so far are using controller on PC to play the game because the aim assist is so good.
Well, I didn't even know there was aim assist on.
Oh yeah, there is. But that's what I've heard anyway. I haven't played it myself yet. I downloaded it. I played through the tutorial with the controller. Definitely seems to be aim assist. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. The time to kill does look a bit interesting. I will say the format of the game looks really fun. I like the idea of it launched with ranked. It looks like the ranked mode is fun and engaging. I don't know. I could see myself giving it a try. What is it? Oddball?
No. So you played a lot of different. I think I played Capture the Flag, Oddball, TDM, and Domination in ranked. But there's some weird stuff going on in terms of ranking up and deranking. Because I lost 2 games and didn't derank at all. Like I lost no elo.
Yeah.
And then I won 1 game and I gained elo.
Gotcha.
And I think I placed in Plat 3 or something. Whatever that was, and then I ranked up to plat 4, but I lost more games. Like I think I won one game and lost two, and I ranked up. But apparently, it takes into consideration personal performance like very heavily. I don't know how true
Hmm.
that is. I have no idea. I felt like it seemed like if I just kept playing at the same way, I would keep ranking up no matter what. Um, Though it seemed a bit handholdy.
So, guys, this is now a Halo and Battlefield podcast.
Yep.
We're never going to talk about Rainbow Six Siege again, by the way. But I think actually this conversation is a perfect summary for Siege, or just listen. There's a lot of really fun FPSs to play right now. You guys know I'm a fan of Valorant. Like, you look at Halo Infinite, Valorant, Battlefield, Apex, Warzone's getting ready to drop a new map. Call of Duty Vanguard just released. Escape from Tarkov is still there that, a lot of people still enjoy. Like, holy cow, there's just so many FPSs to play right now. And that's good for the gamer. But not necessarily good for Siege, because there's just, there's a lot of competition in the space. One thing I was wondering the other day, if you're an average gamer, if you're not a content creator or a shareholder in Ubisoft, I guess you could say, why do you care how popular a game is so long as you can find matches?
The same reason that people are looking at other people's opinion about shows that they enjoy. People just want to have their stuff verified, and
Gotcha.
Right? Like, if I do something and enjoy it, like, I'll go out and say that movie was really good, and I'm kind of hoping that other people agree.
Right. You want
Right?
people
Like,
to like
I
the
think
same things as you? Like,
yeah, I think it's pretty normal in human nature and fair, but it's weird when, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's weird that other people not enjoying it is negatively affecting you in a way.
yeah.
I don't get that, and it truly confuses me why people, like, if I'm having a really bad week on Siege and I'm not having fun, I'll take a week off. I'll play something else, because I don't see and that's even when it's your job, right? Like, I don't want to sit there and just force myself to do something I don't enjoy. There are people that will play it every single day, man, and they will make sure to tell everybody that it sucks and it's bad and they hate it. But they'll do it every day. Every morning they get up, they'll start again and just shit on it. I don't get it.
See,
There's other things to do.
as strange as this sounds, playing other FPS games, it actually makes me more optimistic that Siege is either going to level out at a point and just stay there as a game for a very long time, or two, maybe even make a comeback. Because the fact of the matter is this: there's no game that's doing what Siege does. All right, perfect example. Call of Duty Vanguard, one of its key selling points was we now have destruction in our maps. Have you played that game at all?
I bought it. I haven't played it.
Okay, there are certain buildings on the map that have little boards that you can shoot through and destroy.
That's barricades.
Right.
Like 4 of them on a map.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it'd be the equivalent of like a Siege barricade. Yeah. A Siege map is literally a sandbox that a player can go in and just mold however they want. And that's what every round is going to play different because of that. I also would say this: there's a lot of hero shooters right now. But is there any other hero shooters you can think of that have as intricate of operator interactions as what Siege does? Like the interaction between, say, IQ and Pulse. Is there any other hero shooter that has interactions like that? Are there any other hero shooters that have interactions like Bandit tricking a wall? So you think about that, or even Impact tricking a wall. Maybe
but a lot of those come from the fact that we do have destruction, right? So we kind of have some, like, a lot of things are possible because of that. That other people, like other games, just can't really compete in that specific scenario because they don't have it.
Right.
But most others, like CS and Valorant, are very close to each other, right? Like very, very close. You can play one or the other, and you can swap forth and back, and it will not take you long to understand how the economy works and all of that, because they're very, very close to each other. Call of Duty, 90% of them are almost exactly the same, right? It's almost the same attachments you run. Still good games. Most arena shooters are close to each other. Like Siege is the only thing that does what Siege does, and it does it both the best and the worst. But there just isn't really any competition for that. You can go play other games, but I feel like everyone that tries another shooter for a bit, they always come back for a little bit more of Siege, right?
Right, and that's what makes me feel like Siege can make a comeback. I think the trick is getting either people who have quit the game or people who have never tried the game to that point where they recognize the beauty of Siege and they appreciate the complexity of it instead of that being a turnoff for them. That's the missing link right now, I think, for Siege's comeback.
That and some account stuff and anti-cheat.
Oh yeah.
I legitimately think if they come out and say that we are doing this and this and this and like a big PR push for it and we see noticeable change, I think we'll see a massive influx of people coming back.
I don't mean to overlook the whole cheating thing. I just try to focus on what's under Ubisoft's control. Well, it's not boring. It's just I try to focus on like what could Ubisoft realistically do. And now, what do you mean by like a PR statement? Like what explain that a little bit.
Well, so Call of Duty literally just said now that they are likely gonna ban people after I think they said if it was like really bad offenses, right? Like if I assume maybe people cheating more than once, or I don't know if it was just for one guy aimbutting in one match, but that they would ban you from all Call of Duty games, even the ones not yet released. So if you get banned in Vanguard, you get banned on every Call of Duty game you have access to, and every Call of Duty game that would ever come out in the future. That is insane.
So, okay, what technology are they using to do that a hardware ID spoofer or a VPN wouldn't be able to bypass?
No, so that's not so much. It's just if you have a Steam library, for example, and you get flagged, right, and all of your Call of Duty games from now on and forever will get banned. At least there's going to be less people that are willing to, when they're about to quit a game, cheat a little bit in the game and then, not play it anymore. They get banned and they can go and play the new Call of Duty. Like it'll take away some of those because now you're going to have to split your accounts out. Because if you get caught cheating on Vanguard, well, then you can't go and play Black Ops or whatever other Call of Duty on that same account. And there are, like, sure, a lot of them have maybe only one game on that account that they cheat on. Then they make a new account, new email, all of that. But it definitely has an impact if you go in and just blanket ban every game linked to that account or PC. That has to have some power.
That's what
they'll be able to come back again, right? Like instantly, but they still lose a lot.
That's what I was talking about in that tweet the other day. We were talking about it a little bit. Is what I'm seeing different from cheaters now compared to like a couple years ago with cheaters is like the cheaters that I'm seeing now clearly are people who play Siege like every day. Like they're people who they know the maps, they know how to move. You can tell they're very experienced Siege players. And back in the day, the cheaters you would see, you could tell they were like brand new to the game. Like I felt like a lot of them came over from like maybe tried the game on console and then came to Siege to try to cheat and see what it was like. And so my thinking was how many of those people would cheat if they thought that there was a risk that they were going to, whenever they got banned, which they know they're going to, that they were going to lose their main accounts as well. How big of a deterrent would that be?
Some of them lose their main account now.
Whenever they get banned?
Yeah, there's been people that were
for sure
been caught, right? And then they figured out who's on the other end of that, and then they banned a few accounts. But I think one of the biggest issues Ubi has right now and a lot of games is that they often have this take that they ban the account instead of the individual. Like it's the account that you go after instead of the person that did it. And I don't know if that's GDPR or what's making that difficult, but like if I have 10 accounts and I decide to cheat on one of them, I should lose all accounts. Not one,
Exactly.
right? Like, there is no way of defending that. And then there's this whole thing with people getting banned, and then they're banned for a couple of days, 15 days or something, and then they come back. Sure, maybe that's some legal stuff in some countries where you can't ban on first offense. But there must be something that can be done. Then maybe just for that, I don't know, make it so people have to agree that to play ranked, you have to accept that you can get banned on first offense or something. Like, I don't know if you can add it to a TOS or whatever can be done. But there can't be that loophole where I just decide to sign up as another country, like as I'm from another country, and then therefore I can get banned once without it affecting anything. I'm seeing people that get banned like banned, and 15 days later they're back on playing again. They're still cheating.
Yeah.
And then they get banned again. And then maybe it's permanent after that. I just don't get why it's not more aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the big things that really rocked the community over last week. They announced. All right, so Sweden Major during the finals. That was on what, Sunday, right? Yeah, that was on Sunday. Finals, I think it was in between maps. They announced that SI is coming back to Montreal without a crowd.
Yeah.
And it was really strange. Really strange timing for the announcement because it really cast a dark cloud over the Sweden finals. The Sweden finals had featured some really good Siege. A lot of people were really excited about the quality of Siege, about the run that Don Kia went on. It was a good tournament in that sense. And then they kind of put that announcement out, and the whole conversation shifted from anything that had to do with the actual competition to this is the final nail in the coffin. No crowd at SI is a huge mistake. No crowd means no growth, means Siege is dying. And it all just turned into a really negative announcement. So what did you think of that?
Oh, there's so much, right? So first off, that was a really shitty time to like drop the news on that one. Like that, it was not a smart time to do it. I think they should have waited until right after the event and then done it. Then I don't know, release the same video or press thing, and then I don't know. Like I enjoy Invitational so much, and I think it's awesome. It's in Montreal, but I don't think a lot of people share that exact same amount of hype for it being in Montreal, because like, why would anyone except for the people that work on the game truly care if it's in Montreal?
Yeah.
Like what's the big special thing about it? I understand it from a like if I was a dev, it's awesome to have it in the home city of the game, and like all of that, it makes sense. Of course it's exciting. I love going to Invitational. It's even cold as fuck. It's so awesome there. But it's just not a big selling point that it's in Montreal. Like I wouldn't really care if it was any other big city in the world and it swapped around. I don't see that as like a band-aid for it. But I will say that I think maybe they put it out in a bit of a weird way that there's not going to be a crowd. I fully respect it. I really do. If you don't want to take the risk there, I would almost rather say it's better to do it once or twice too many and then be as safe as possible. Because we don't know how the numbers are going to look. Like Germany is at their worst numbers possible right now. And I don't think any of us on Twitter are qualified to sit there and say if it's safe or not. Because if any of us had to take make the actual decision, none of us would be okay with the consequences that could happen, right?
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I don't think they did it just to shit on people, because they want people there, right?
Yeah. So
of course it's not no crowd, haha, boo.
As far as the timing, I think that they didn't expect the type of outcry that they did about no crowd. If they would have expected that type of outcry, they would have surely done that announcement at a different time and probably worded it differently.
They should have expected it, though. But I will say that.
Here's the thing. What percentage of Rainbow Six Siege players do you think care about whether or not there's a crowd at SI or not?
Probably less than 2%.
Yes. So in the scheme of things, you know what I mean? Again, I'm not saying that was the right decision. I think there's a way you can like kind of have your cake and eat it too in this situation, just by making that announcement at a different time and wording it slightly different. But in the scheme of things, the people who are wanting to go to SI are a very small fraction of the player base. I would also argue they're probably the most important segment of the player base as well. They're clearly the most passionate people. All right, so that's one thing I'll say. Next thing I'll say is no matter what you would say about this, you would have to admit that it's a very tough decision. Very tough decision. And then the next thing I would say is that the decision they made was the safest one. Now, at this point, they have walked back and said, we're looking into the possibility of having a very limited audience at the SI. And that almost makes me... I'm glad they're doing that, but who's making these decisions, man? And like you're telling me you come out and say that there's no crowd at SI, and then 2 days later you come out and say, okay, we'll look into it. I think it brings me back to they really misread the situation and how the community was going to react. And I understand.
I'm also just not a fan of that way of acting. Like, you make a decision, you stand by it.
Yes, but if you make a wrong decision, you got
sure.
Okay, yeah, right.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
Like, in this situation, if you choose that it is not safe to bring in people, and that is the argument for it, then you don't go and say, okay, but we can bring in a few people. Like, why? But on the other hand, I think both parties in that one messed up massively. I think the way they announced it was poorly done. It's a shame that they tried to celebrate with it being in Montreal before dropping that one, because there was no way that they didn't expect that there was going to be an outroar. Like, people have complained about everything that has ever been said.
Yeah.
But which Goblin came up with the idea that it is crucial for the survival of a game that there is an audience and that the player numbers would increase? Where does that idea come from? Because there is nothing, there's no data or anything to point in the direction that if you have a crowd at the event, that has any impact on any numbers anywhere. Like, UFC climbed in numbers after not having an audience, right? There's been esport events with no audience that did amazingly well. I think it's way more important that your game is in a good state and your game is doing well and that people have fun than that there's an audience there. Because a few people clapping for a week, like, there's a lot of people that won't see it, right? Even if we had, let's say, the massive like 500,000 viewers on it for SI, cool, but that's not going to massively drastically change the player numbers. I don't think so. I think the crowd.
So listen, I'm not one of those people that necessarily thought that, but I think that maybe where that's coming from, the whole, if you don't have a crowd at SI, the game's dead. I think, to play devil's advocate on that point, because I agree with you, I think that what those people might be thinking is,
did we lose Dylan?
No, can you not hear me?
Oh, I can now. You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, it's back. We're good.
Okay, all right. I think that what those people might be thinking is that there is that Ubi's doing this to save money. I think that might be in the back of their head. They're thinking, okay, well, Ubisoft is afraid that maybe they won't sell enough tickets to fill the place bell because the player numbers are down. Or maybe they're just doing this to make it easier and save money. And hey, we don't have to rent the place bell. We'll just have a you know, a smaller venue and stuff like that. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think it comes down to planning. Like, it's
a weird jump to take that it's because they can't afford it all of a sudden, right?
Yeah,
like, it's not very logical, especially not after, like, we still have majors and all of that. Like, look, Sweden one looked insane.
Yeah. That, I mean, that's a great point. CS:GO just had a major in Sweden with a crowd. You know, that's you know, you have to look at that. But okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm responsible for planning the Invitational. At some point, you got to make a decision on what that's going to look like. Like, you're talking place bell. This is, you know, a huge hockey arena. Like, it's not like you can just be like, hey, can we let you know 48 hours ahead of the event whether or not we're going to come there with a crowd or not? No, that's not how it works. You
It's
know?
also like there was a lot of people that tried to defend it by saying, well, there are hockey games that have X amount of thousand people going there. Yeah, but people don't plan on like months ahead to travel from the other end of the world to go to those games to
Yeah,
fill the seat. Like most of the people that come there are from the area, they're close by. At least they don't have to, plan a month ahead that they have to go there. And if the
right,
game gets canceled, it's not like people took a week off work.
right.
But SI is a long time, and if you go over there, it's a week off work, it's your plane tickets, it's hotels booked. You're most likely not going to get much of the money back if you end up not going there, especially not if it's because of pandemic lockdown or any of that stuff. So what happened last year where it's called out that it's going to be there, then it's not going to be there, then it's postponed, then it's going to be there again, then it's going to be there without a crowd, then it's going to be in Paris, then that gets moved. Like that was an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And I would not want to be the guy sitting there with a decision having to say that, oh yeah, we're just going to invite the crowd. We can always just tell them that it's, yeah, sorry, you can't come in. Things changed, new regulations, spike in numbers, whatever. Like that would hurt. That would be a bad thing. But on the other hand, you still have to have the event.
And I
Right? We
think,
have to have the competition.
I
The
think
teams need it.
here's where I'm at. And I think with this comment, we're moving out of esports and more into like a worldview right now. And I just want to throw it out there and see what people think about this frame of thought with the current situation around COVID. At this point, pretty much everybody has had the opportunity to get the vaccine if they so choose. Okay. And if you choose to, go for it. If you don't, that's your choice as well. All right. That's my view on it. So, with that in mind, if you are hosting an event that's going to have a crowd, again, you're going to make a choice on whether or not you want to put yourself in that situation to be inside of an arena with a bunch of different people. Okay. Is that what's wrong with that? What's wrong? Like, so I understand from Ubisoft's perspective, this is a safe decision in order to limit their liability. But why should the liability be on them in the first place? If I'm choosing, let's say worst case scenario, and I don't even want to think about this, but let's say worst case scenario, Ubisoft has the invite, I go there, I contract COVID, and I die. How is that Ubisoft's responsibility?
Well, that's not really the problem.
Okay.
Problem isn't that you get affected. It's that 5 people get affected because you get affected. And then they all affect 5 people, and then that affects 5 people. And the more it affects, the more of an impact. The more we travel, the bigger the issue. Crossing borders, stuff like that. That's the big issue. If we could just have only certain countries hit by it at a certain time, and then it moves on, it would be manageable. Problem is if we invite let's say 5,000 people from all over the world, they all go to different airports. Let's just say 10 of them get sick, or 5 of them, and they all spread it to someone on a plane that has to go on another plane that spreads it to someone else on an airport. You can do these R naught numbers, right? So the likelihood of you spreading, like how many are you going to spread to, and how many is the next going to spread to, and you can do those calculations. And within, like, if you're at an R naught of 2, and we say 5 or 10 people get infected, and you start traveling, you could have like on the good side of 300 to 400,000 people affected within 5 days. That's the problem. It's not about
okay,
you or me.
and this is an honest question. Does the fact that the vaccine is readily available to people who want it, does that change that at all?
Yeah, it's safer, right? But
Yeah,
you would have to force people to do it. The problem is that you can still transmit,
right.
right? It's much lower chance, but you could still.
Yeah,
And
you can still transmit. You can still get sick. You're much less likely to be hospitalized.
We have the numbers rising in Germany right now, right? Like
Yep.
the numbers have never been as high as they are. So the question is it worth it just because a few teenagers want to go to an event and watch some video games? Is it worth it to take that gamble on the behalf of everyone else?
Right.
Because I wouldn't care if you could send yourself in a bubble. If you could travel over there without ever being in contact with anyone else. I wouldn't care if anyone decided to go and do it and then got sick. That's your call. The problem is you'll take it home to your kids, your grandparents, whatever it might be, right? And they'll share it with others. And sure, maybe you don't die, you might just get sick. What about the medical staff that has to take care of you when this happens? And what about them getting sick? And then someone else can't get treatment because one or two people chose that it was a good idea to do it.
So I guess
Um,
on your side of what you're saying here is hosting an esports event with a crowd important enough to justify the possible risk of what you're talking about right there. That's like
yeah, I don't think it isn't. That's
that's
why I chose not to do UL.
so okay, but does it change that if you say we will be hosting an esports event with a crowd in order to come you must show proof of vaccination? Does that change
I'll,
anything?
I'll, I'll say it's better. But
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that it would be a requirement. Like they wouldn't be allowed to have it without forcing vaccination.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure what the rules are in Canada. Like I think it's Austria are literally putting people in lockdown now. If you don't have the vaccination, you're not allowed to leave your house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
I think what we're talking about here is outside of our scope. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm like downplaying COVID or saying that, that you should that it shouldn't be a factor in this decision. I don't want anybody to think that. I think that there's two different ways to look at it. And I think both sides are legitimate conversations to be having right now. At the end of the day, what is absolutely true is that whoever's making this decision, it's a really tough decision. That there's
yeah,
just
it's not something you
it's a
just
tough.
made over like a cup of coffee and went, oh, easy, right?
Right.
And also, I will almost guarantee that there are consultants and experts in that field that are giving advice on this, right? And not people just reading a bit about it on Google and saying, oh, but it's safe or it's unsafe. Like there's clearly some actual professional people involved in that decision.
Yeah.
And hey, it sucks just as much for me as it does for anyone else. I really enjoy Invitational. I'd really like to go, whether it's working or as crowd or whatever. And I'm super sad that I'm not going to be there. But I mean, maybe if we take it serious for a bit longer, we can get back to some normal stuff at some point, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think if somebody came down to me and said, "Hey, listen, if we don't have invite with a crowd, that will help us get to a point where by this summer, we'll have the numbers to the point where life can really get back to normal." That's a no freaking brainer. Like that is an absolute no brainer. And it may be a no brainer to not have a crowd to begin with. Like we don't know what's going to happen with the holiday and cold weather spike. It could get nutty again. You know what I mean? We don't know. So I sympathize with them on this decision. I really do.
I'd really like to see someone run. There are some programs you can do for like calculating pandemic spread rates and stuff. I'd like to see someone just do like a proper calculation of what would happen if, let's say, 4 people at the event get sick, and we assume that the R naught is 2.5. And then see like how quickly, if we just do with the world airports and how many people are in the cities and all of that, because they're like pre-done programs. We just type the numbers in, see how quickly it could go south. I think maybe that would make some people reconsider if it's that necessary,
or show the possible ramifications. I think that's the big deal.
It's probably not going to hurt you or me or people at the event. It might hurt someone else.
Yeah. And then another aspect of it too is, in the States, at least right now, there's a bit of a culture war between vaccine mandates and stuff like that. And let's say Ubi was planning on doing something like, hey, if you want to come, you have to show proof of vaccine. Maybe they were afraid of the political or PR backlash of people saying, I want to come and you're forcing me to get a vaccine. And if it's my choice, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people like that in the States.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a fear, because that's going to be a requirement later, either way, for almost everything. like we have it with so much other stuff. When polio was a thing, you don't get a choice if you get the polio vaccine. You get it or you die, or you just stay at home. That's it, right? Like you don't get to mingle with other people if you're capable of spreading it. Like it's normal.
Well,
We get vaccines as a kid, and you can't go to school if you don't have them,
yeah.
right? So of course they're gonna have to require that that's a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping they can find a nice middle ground. I mean, more than anything, I'm just hoping that at some point we just get back to life as normal, and
That would be kind of
and
nice.
that we get this thing under control, and that everything's good to go. I do think though, one thing I think that the scope and the reach of Invite on the community and the player base and stuff like that is a little bit further reaching maybe than you were giving it credit in the beginning. Like, I don't think the game is going to die because there's not a crowd there, but I do think that seeing a crowded Invite, seeing the cosplayers, seeing all of that, it does reach further into the community than what we might give it credit. And that's
100%.
really the big shame right now.
There is only positives with seeing a crowd there. If it was completely safe and there was no downside, like of course anyone would always take a crowd. But the doom stories people are saying with the game, it's gonna hurt the game if there's no crowd. Like I think the game's hurting. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it has anything to do with if there are a crowd at an event. Because I think a game can do completely fine without having an esport as well. I'm all for the esports side. It's my favorite part of a Siege, but there are plenty of games that do well without having it. It's not majority of the players that follow it, right? Like again, onboarding all the other things we've talked about so many times. It's about when new people come in, like they should actually feel welcomed and wanting to stay. That's more important than anything, right? And a lot of people that maybe don't play Siege, if they end up tuning into Invitational, I don't think they're going to choose not to play the game because they didn't see a crowd there. I just don't see any logical correlation between if there are people on site cheering and the amount of people that will play the game. Maybe we're talking 10,000 players, but it has no impact. It's such a small number.
I agree with you. The only thing I would add on to that is I think that you're right. I don't think any new players are going to see a crowd and be like, I'm going to play this game or not based upon that. What I will say is that I think that it might establish a little bit of a deeper connection with current players, in the sense that like a current player might look at it, look at the cosplayers, look at the crowd, look how much fun they're having, and be like, I want to do that next year. And they start planning on coming to the next invite. And then if that comes to fruition, now if you're somebody who has attended an invite and been in the crowd, I would be willing to bet that you are a Siege fan for life. You might go through periods of time where you don't play the game, but you're always going to have that connection with Siege. And
yeah, 100%. But it's still a minute number. It's a tiny number, right? Let's say it's 10,000 people that actually go there,
right,
and we increase it by 10,000 every year. Like that's not even going to show up on a graph.
You're right. Yep.
I still want it. Like it's the best thing about Siege ever is invite with people. Like it is so good. But yeah, the tweets with if there's no game, the game isn't gonna last. Or if there's no crowd at the invite, the game isn't gonna last. There's no correlation. There are plenty of things that they could fix and improve and change without a doubt that could increase player numbers. But yeah, that one seems like it's just to boost that you're upset about there not being a crowd.
Yeah.
I get the frustration. I just don't think it's a fair thing to draw into it. Like player numbers and crowd, man.
I'll take it a step further. I think that if you're expecting the year 7 season 1 reveal to be the aha moment for Siege where everything gets back on track, I think that you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yep.
I feel like that's okay, let's say that Siege saw if they saw the numbers trending down a year ago and started working on what they are bringing forth for the year 7 season 1 with all that in mind, then that's one thing. That's probably realistic that it could hit the spots they need to in order for that to be a reality. But if they if they were just going through the motions a year ago, and then all of a sudden, like say maybe 4 months ago, they were like, holy shit, the numbers are down. We need to do something. I don't think that's enough time to make year 7 season 1 the moment where that happens. And I would even argue, I would take it a step further and say that I would argue that it would be better for them to not blow that opportunity on year 7 season 1. Don't do it. I feel like
they gotta be damn careful right now. Like they really gotta be careful.
Agreed.
Take a streamer mode, good example.
Yep.
It's been so long since we were promised that, since we were shown the first iteration that was useless, and like it has been so long. I've forgotten when they announced it publicly the first time. And even before it was announced publicly, we knew about it in advance, right? And it is only just now that we're getting to see some semi-usable version of it, and we don't even know if it will work yet. So the promise of delivering something like that and then waiting that long makes you not appreciate it as much when it's actually there. And they have to be careful if they come out and reveal like all the fixes, but the fixes are a year away. Then they're better off not telling, and sharing it when you have something that matters. Because the whole, like, we're promising improvements, but it'll be a while. Next time, next season. That gets hard over time, man.
For sure.
Like you lose trust.
Well, and I guess more specifically on what I'm talking about, like let's say that Siege going free to play is part of the big plan in order to get Siege growing again and give it a boost and get things back on track. I think that announcing that at year 7 season 1 is too early and would be a mistake unless they have the other things that there's a lot that needs done in Siege before they go free to play. And if you and going free to play is absolutely a big moment for Siege if that ever happens. So don't blow it too early. Make sure that you got probably one chance at this, in my opinion. You got one big marketing push to get Siege back on track. And I just hope that they don't get in too big of a rush to get that out. Yes, I want year 7 season 1. I want that reveal to be as good as possible. They shouldn't try sweep it under the rug either. That needs to be a big deal. But I'm not viewing that as the line in the sand, I guess you could say. I think that's unfair to do so, personally.
Someone in chat had a good point here. The rotation system, that was not last invitational, not the Paris, the not invitational, but the real invitational before that, where we got that announced, and we have yet to see anything from it. We've been told it's running in the background, it's collecting data, it's doing something, but we haven't seen any impact.
Yeah.
In game.
Yeah.
None. If anything, it's only just gotten worse. So if the overall experience of playing in ranked and in newcomer and stuff like that, if that has gotten worse and you're running the system in the background, maybe you should start trying to turn it on. Because we've been hoping for that to have some sort of positive impact for a long time, and we haven't seen it.
I'm so freaking tired of talking about the reputation system. I'm tired of talking about attacker repick. I'm tired of talking about the Goya rework.
I'm so excited for the attacker repick though. I really want that.
I've had this conversation. I feel like I've had this conversation 1,000 times, and that's something I was saying on stream the other day. Streaming Siege right now is exhausting, man. How many people come into the chat? Dead game. Siege is a dead game. What do you think Siege usually like? It's this conversation. And I mean, granted, we're sitting here doing it again, but all this stuff is so exhausting, man. I'm tired of talking about this.
Think about how well Siege would do if we were okay with just losing a third of the players right now, all the ones that didn't enjoy playing it. So it was just the ones of us that actually had fun left.
Yeah.
We'd pretty much be at year 1 where everyone enjoyed it.
I actually have a video coming out today kind of talking about that. Like I'm saying that in order for Siege to get back on track, it's probably 70% on Ubi and like 30% on the community. and I'm
I
throwing.
think it's more in the community.
I don't think so. I would say 70-30.
Yeah.
I would say 70% on Ubi to start making better decisions, start looking at the content they're releasing, start looking at new player onboarding, streamer mode, anti-cheat, all that. I'd say that's 70% of the bottle, and then 30% is going to be on the community and especially content creators to like. How many content creators out there are still showing clips on Twitter of them enjoying the game? When's the last
Probably
time?
not a lot, because then they don't get a lot of likes. You get called a shill if you upload something where you enjoy it.
I uploaded a clip of Thorn the other day, showing me getting kills with her on Villa Study Balcony. That's the best clip I've had on. That's the best interactions I've had on Twitter in a very long time.
Yep.
That stuff is still there. Macy does that all the time.
Now compare it with people that do the opposite, and I'll promise you that it pales in comparison. If I upload a clip of someone knifing everyone in spawn during the thing and say the state of siege, it'll do better than if I upload an ace of me having a ton of fun.
That's true.
100%.
That's true.
And we can even pull up a use case, because that exact tweet actually exists.
Yeah.
What I'm referring to.
And there's another one that I just referenced. Gogo's tweet about viewership being down. That had like 5. He put out a tweet during during the Sweden major about viewership going down and showing different events and how they're trending down. And I think that thing has like 5,000 likes or something, which is a lot.
Yeah, but it's so easy to just write a tweet and then people just pat you on the back and tell you you're right. Like, you don't have to. It never deep dives into anything. Like the fact that, for example, this time, sure, player numbers are down, so that is going to reflect on viewers. Also, 2 teams from the same region. That hurts viewership a ton. There's just less people that care if it's not 2 different regions against each other. That's normal in all esports. It always sucks whenever you have a double or a same region final. That is always worse for viewership. Then you have like there was more on YouTube this time than there was last time compared to, right? Like there were just people that watched on YouTube this time instead of watching on Twitch. And no matter what you did, the numbers are still down, sure. And so what? Right? Like if you enjoyed the finals, if you personally had fun, why does it matter if someone else was watching it as well? Like for you personally. And if you go out and make it a big deal that your neighbor didn't watch it, but he watched it last year, you're still happy about watching it. You still enjoyed it. Then I feel like you're way more likely to make the people around you not want to watch it. Like I think people are shooting themselves in the foot. And the reason I think it's way more in the community is because I believe a game could actually be in a pretty shit state if we all like accept certain amounts of meh and play it. Like CS has been in rough states, man. Rough. No one had any other choice at that moment because there was nothing else to play. So people still stuck around. And they didn't complain that much because we didn't know what the alternative would be, or if anyone was actually, because Valve has never communicated, right? So people didn't moan as much because no one was responding. And now it's more beneficial. Like if you're a content creator and you moan about the game, it's more beneficial. You get further, you get more people. And if you don't do it, you get kind of attacked for defending it.
I feel like it's a bit short-sighted though. You will like you will get more views on that video, but what are you gonna do? You can't do that for 5 years.
No, I agree, but no one is ever planning for that. That's the thing, right? Like you're not planning when you start doing something like that. You don't plan to stick with the same game for 5 years because you don't know if it's out for that long. At least if you do, you're taking some gambles that are maybe not fair to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to realize the possibility that it's a year ahead and never further with one game. Like a lot of things one good competitor comes out and it might just not be interesting anymore, right? Then you have to change content, swap somewhere else. But even if it's not on content creators, because sure they have a fairly big impact on everything. Just look at the normal interactions between players in game. Like how much of that is positive? That's not the game's fault. The game having bugs is not at fault for people being assholes to each other. we can't blame it on that. Like we also can't blame the game's anti-cheat or rotation systems or any of that for being the reason that people act out in the ways that they do. The company should make it and they should fight it as much as possible. But like it's never the police's fault that people do crimes, right?
Yeah.
They need to be there to try and limit it when it happens, but it's something a little bit deeper than that that has to be fixed.
I mean, one of the
All the
like
other stuff is reaction.
one of the things, like even like looking at this podcast, like I can think back, and I'm sure you can too. Like when we first started this podcast, we could spend the whole 2 hours talking about in-game aspects of Siege.
Yep.
Operators being strong, maps, reworks, stuff like that, nerfs, buffs, ideas. I can't imagine doing that right now. What if we tried to sit here and talk for 2 hours about Siege and have those conversations? What would that look like? What would we talk about? Now, is that on us? Is that on us? Is that our mindset right now and what we've been focusing on? Or is that a lack of content in the game? Is it the game being stale? What are the factors there?
I think a big difference was that it's easier to do that when people are truly interested in it.
Right.
If the main focus is all of a sudden on all the negative things and you start talking about the positive things, it's just not going to vibe with people, right? Plus, I think there is some sort of there's an importance in being fair and actually mentioning the problems that are there, but while still being like somewhat respectful and saying that there are things that are not good enough that have to change, instead of screaming on Twitter and trying to make it about getting likes or any of that. The feedback is clearly needed on some of these things, and hopefully doing it in a bit of a respectful way can maybe have some impact. Right now, I just don't think it's that important what the operators do or what the maps are like or any of that, because it's so hard to get to enjoy it.
Speaking of which, though, this is the first time I was thinking we had a podcast since the season has been revealed on the test server. We haven't, had we?
No, last time we had the podcast, we were talking about.
Yeah, we were speculating. What do you think about the new season? I didn't even realize that. Like, let's talk about it.
I think Outback has too many soft walls. Thorn is fun. Like honestly, she's more fun than I thought. And when I tried her on test server, I didn't really enjoy her that much. Like she's pretty fun. I still think it's a cheap operator in terms of. I don't think they were very. They could have come up with a lot of things that were way more interesting than Capcan on a stick.
Capcan and Ella mixed, basically.
Yeah,
is what it is.
It's just a little bit of a 2.0 character. I just think she's better than Ella in every possible way.
True.
And yeah, I don't know the selling point with the gun being made in house. I just found that a little funny. As if that was like a marketing thing. If you haven't seen this weapon anywhere else, it's because we came up with it. It's just an Uzi, right? It's just any other SMG, like any other game. And it shoots a 50 cal because they needed something with more destruction. Okay, cool. Like, operator's fun. But I wish there was some more Siege stuff to it. Like, I miss getting stuff like Mav and Mira and things that do something like really different and interesting. Like Nomad, that was the first time we saw any interaction with like being moved that way, right? Now Oryx does the same if he hits you, but new stuff like that or something that truly adds something. I don't feel like Thorn adds anything other than, oh shit, I have to move away from this place. Like so many other things.
What about Osa? Did you feel like that fit the parameters of what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think Osa is so non-intrusive and okay. Like the fact that you can see through it when she's moving up with it and you have ways of dealing with it and there's so many impacts and stuff you can do. I don't feel like Osa is as damaging, but also anything that comes on attack is just a little easier to deal with because they have to be the ones moving there.
Osa, I was saying this the other day. I think Osa is one of the worst solo queue operators in the game. Maybe
In
not
terms of like playing her or
playing her as a
strong or
solo
bad?
queue, as a solo queue player in high gold, low plat. Osa's one of the worst operators, in my opinion. Maybe that's not fair. I'm sorry. Maybe I should say it like this. Osa, the difference between playing Osa with a 5-stack versus solo queue is night and day compared to other operators. You know what I mean? Like there of course there are operators that are better solo queue operators than others. But I feel like with Osa, she really shines when you're playing with a squad that can put you in predictable locations and you know you can get value out of her utility late in the round. When you're a solo queue player though, like it's just like no.
I think she's. I don't play a lot of solo queue, so it's not fair to say that I have experience with it. But I would probably enjoy playing her in solo queue just to cover my own ass. Like put it on a window and then punch it, just to make sure that they can't walk up and just punch the barricade and shoot me. Stuff like that. Block flanks. If I wanted to set down the diffuser, I could put the window there, punch it so they can't see me plant, and I have some options to hide it. Um, like I honestly think she's just slightly better than Blackbeard. I think she's slightly better than Blackbeard was as well, because
Okay.
you can move away from and she has smokes, which is like you can throw a smoke in, you can go and place your shield, then you can punch it, then you can start planting, and people will think you're planting behind the shield, even though you're maybe planting behind a box.
Yeah.
Instead, like there is a lot of really interesting stuff you can do with her, and I don't think she's overpowered at all. Right? But I think she's really strong.
I don't think that she's a bad operator. I think she's a great operator. I just think that she's
bad solo queue.
Yeah, she's just frustrating in solo queue. Yeah. So okay, what about the camera outside change? What about the Valkyrie nerf, as people are calling it? But it affects all defender cameras outside.
Did you celebrate?
Not really. I was never. Okay, it was never my. I've been advocating for a Valkyrie nerf for a long time. That is not the direction that my mind ever went until somebody mentioned it as an idea. And then I was like, yeah, it does make sense that, Valkyrie's cameras shouldn't be able to work outside. I'm on board with that. But that was never where my mind went as far as Valkyrie nerfs. And I personally don't think it's going to do a ton.
No, I think Valkyrie's going to be. I mean, I think we actually talked about it last time, or that was the time before. I think Valkyrie's going to get stronger. I think we're going to see the performance be better because people have their cams stay up a little bit longer, and there's not going to be as many people that miss their cams and get them destroyed outside. Plus, a lot of places you can still place them inside to see outside. I do like that they unified the whole thing with making it 10 seconds on every gadget.
Yeah.
Outside. I'm kind of sad I can't run out and place a maestro and be sneaky. Right? Like that, it was just a fun thing. You never did it. It never worked. But when it did, it felt cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind it at all. It's gonna take me a long time to not accidentally run over, throw a Valk cam out of a window. Like that's gonna happen. I'm gonna play Valk and I'm gonna lose 1 or 2 cams.
Well, you still get full sound from that Valk camera.
Yes.
That's a lot. That can be a lot of information. Just the sound of somebody. Just the sound of somebody repelling.
Yeah, but then I'd rather place it inside and have the glass broken, and then I can still hear the same thing.
Yeah, I think that where that's going to come into play is you might find situations where somebody's like, I can throw this camera and it might do me some good for 10 seconds. But even if it doesn't, I'll still be able to get sound cues from it. So therefore, I'm still going to feel like this is a beneficial decision. Maybe not.
Yeah, but most places you're going to be able to, like, almost every place you'd want that camera outside. You can put a camera inside that can give you the intel if they're at that area anyway, right? Because if you need to be able to jump out from there, there's always a window or something close enough. Like, sure, sometimes you're going to throw a Valk cam out, check it, and then jump out on it. But that's going to be like the solo queue monkey stuff. Actually, the only downside with that is that some of the Valk players might be wasting their cameras just having all 3, throwing one out, checking, then jumping out, shooting, and throwing another one out, and then jumping out shooting.
Oh,
and we're gonna see that, right?
Oh,
the amount of people I've seen have their echo drones in the window still and get shot is tough enough.
And then that's gonna be the same player. Like, no, Valkyrie's not a crutch hop. I don't need Valkyrie to get kills. I don't need
I
an
promise you that's
operator
gonna
that gives me
happen.
a full sight picture outside while I shoot attackers who are defenseless on rappel in order to get kills. That is not a necessary requirement for me. Yes, I do realize I just spent all 3 of my cameras trying to do that exact thing, but no, that's not a crutch op. I don't need that in order to get kills. Oh
I'm
man.
almost certain that's gonna happen. You're gonna have a goblin on your team that wastes the Valk cams outside because that way he can get 30 seconds of Dawn Peaks.
All right, so let's say this. Let's say this, because I love talking about Valk nerfs. Let's say that they make this change and Valkyrie's win delta, pick rate, presence across Pro League, across ranked, nothing changes. First of all, do you do anything else? And second of all, what do you do?
No.
Okay. You're fine with Valk just staying where she is.
Yeah, I don't think she's not in a strong spot at all. Was she?
I mean, according to what? Just according to what you feel in game?
If you're saying win delta.
Yeah, she's strong overpicked and has been for a very long time. The most recent win delta, she came down a little bit.
Wait, okay. Do we have it here? Let's see.
I want to say on the most recent one, she came down to reality a little bit. The one before that, I want to say she was in the top 1 or 2 as far as win delta, and then the top 1 or 2 as far as presence as well. And this one, I think there's a couple that are above her now.
I can't find the newest one. Oh, maybe it's your TS patch notes.
Should be TS designer notes.
Caliber.
I mean,
yeah, can't find.
Oh.
I mean, either way, like, I don't think that if you do a nerf like this and you don't see a drop, like I don't think the idea is that she should fall. Like, I don't think that's the target. I don't think it's to get her played less.
No, I agree.
So
I agree. That shouldn't be the goal anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So
I can make a couple of different arguments. If you have a defensive operator that is being at the top of the ban rate in both ranked and in Pro League, and that when brought performs better than operators in those settings, is that troubling? Is that troubling? She absolutely is. She's one of the best performing defenders in the game.
Yeah, but she's not one of the most banned.
Yes, she is. I think she's 2. She's 2 or 3.
Okay, but then why aren't we looking at nerfing Thatcher and Kayit before anything else?
Well, I think it's a combination of all those things. I don't think that operators should be banned solely on pick rate.
No. But what I mean is, if you want to use those arguments for Valk, then let's start with the ones where it stands out the most.
No. Okay.
It must be more important.
I'm not using one singular argument. I'm using a combination of all of the things that we can see with Valk. Okay. So we can see that she has a high ban rate in both ranked and in Pro League. We also see that when she is brought, she seems to have a very large impact in both ranked and in Pro League, even more so than other defenders. So when you combine all of that, you're looking at an operator that's clearly a strong operator. Now, the outside camera nerf, the reason that makes so much sense is not only does she have all those things that I just mentioned going for her, but that was also a very frustrating mechanic for all players. I mean, whether you're a pro or whether you're a casual player, it doesn't feel great for a Valk to run out on you while you're rappelling up the side of a building just trying to get to the roof. So that's why that nerf was a no-brainer win-win situation. If you want to go further than this, or if you feel the need, and that's a matter of opinion. What I would look at is, the first thing I would mention is every other camera in the game, correct me if I'm wrong here, every other camera in the game has 2 states. One, if you're the player who owns that camera. Think about Maestro, for example. And I think they might have just changed this, but if you're Maestro, you can not only look through the evil eye, you can rotate the evil eye, and you can open up and zap it, people with the evil eye. If you're the owner of a drone, you can not only drive the drone, but you can look through it as well. But if you're just spectating that drone, then you only get the viewpoint of the drone, right? So if you're on an Echo, if you're an Echo, Echo can not only look through his camera, but he can move the drone around. He can stop a plant with it and stuff like that. So there's, on all those gadgets, there's two different states there. With Valkyrie, whether you are Valkyrie or whether you are a player who's been dead for the entire round, looking through that camera is the exact same. So maybe you make it to where either sound doesn't get relayed through the camera to the people who are spectating it other than Valkyrie. Maybe they can't rotate the field of view in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. But I would look at
So what if we were to remove the Valk cams and Valk would still be up there?
What if you were to remove the Valk cams?
Yeah, if we just say that the Valk doesn't have any cams and we still saw there, like, let's just entertain that thought. That maybe people really like the gun and the C4 or whatever, and it wouldn't like drastically change her win delta. It would change her pick rate a lot, right? It's very selective because of this vendetta that you have against Valk. That we have to look at. Okay, she gets banned a lot. Yeah, because people are too lazy to bring IQ, right? They're too lazy to have their drones outside spawn. Once these Valk cams don't get thrown outside, which they still will, with 10 seconds to catch the players that don't have the discipline to go out of spawn slowly and carefully, that just wants to sprint. Let's check the people that get yeeted by Valks that jump out, how often they're sprinting when this happens. Instead of pointing their gun at where people could be jumped out.
So you don't think that they should have removed the ability to throw cameras outside?
No, I'm completely fine with it. But
okay.
It will just remove the option of the excuse that it was a Valk that got you killed when you then die. Because games where Valk is banned in ranked, people spawn peek just as much. They jump out just as much in windows. Maybe not in certain elos, but they definitely do in higher. It has close to no impact. You'll call it off the default cam getting shot. You'll have barricades broken in different places, and you'll have a bulletproof tell you when you're there. You'll have a goo mine outside or something like that. An L mine and a drone hole, right? There's so many options for you to do that. The second we can't do it with Valk, we'll find something else to start doing it with instead.
So
it will limit the interaction where Valk does this. But like, I am no less careful going out of spawn whether Valk is there or not.
I guess the question is, at what point, when clearly all segments of the player base struggle with dealing with that Valk and outside cams, does that become?
I don't think they do.
Yes, they do. At the recent Sweden major, it may have been the finals. They didn't ban Valk on Cafe, and it was non-stop Valk runouts. Everybody was talking about how this was the perfect example of why Valk shouldn't be able to throw cameras outside.
This is straw manning. Most of you're picking.
I'm not. So you're saying that pro players don't struggle with.
If they struggle with Valk there, they fucked up. They were completely okay to have drones ready to see where those cams got thrown out. That is on them. They made a mistake.
Okay, but
they will own up to this as well.
If everybody's making the same mistake, then at what point do we do, as the game designer, do you look at that and say, okay, maybe we need to do something here?
No, I'm saying I'm okay with the change, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm never fighting you on the cam change outside. I'm just saying that we don't have to keep nerfing over and over and over and over again. It's not important. At some point, you're responsible as a player for not making the same dumb mistake again.
Absolutely. Right? But if 100% of people are making the same mistake, then the person who's designing
that is so many.
The person who's designed, if everybody's wrong, then they're right. I firmly believe that. Absolutely.
That's a very important philosophy.
It absolutely is. But if I'm designing a maze, and the goal of the maze is that nobody succeeds in it, if nobody succeeds, great, I'm happy. But if the design of the maze is that once you complete this maze, you go into the next maze, and nobody has completed the first maze, then I need to look at maybe changing the first maze in order to allow people to get to the second maze. Does that make sense at all?
No, not really, because your statement of if everyone is wrong, then they're right. That is a very weird.
If it depends, it depends on the situation. If you're creating a game and nobody can make it past the first level, you did something wrong as the designer of that game.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with about making people right. Sometimes it's more important that they just are okay with how things are. Than
everybody's wrong and right is just a saying. But do you agree with what I'm saying? If you design a game with 10 levels and nobody makes it past the first level, then you as a designer did something wrong. Do you agree with that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, well, that's just a different philosophy. I guess I'm a populist when it comes to Siege. You call me a populist in that if everybody across every skill level is struggling with a game mechanic, then as a designer of that game, you should be looking at that game mechanic.
Yes, but you're preaching to the choir. Like I'm not opposed to the change. Like I'm not sure what you're trying to argue. My point is that you can't decide that
you're saying that you were saying that if pros are struggling with a Valk, then they messed up.
No, you're using the fact that pros in one game struggled with it to emphasize that everyone always struggles with it. I do not think that is fair for you to speak on behalf of everyone. I don't think everyone struggles with Valk. I just don't.
I mean,
do you honestly believe that every player is like at a complete loss if there was a Valk on the field?
No. Of course not. Of course not. No, absolutely not. I think that.
What was it you said then when everyone struggles with it? Like, why was that being used as to emphasize what?
Well, I think you can clearly show several examples where players across every skill level have struggled with Valk cameras being outside, and by struggling, I mean like have literally struggled to even get out of spawn or into the building. That has happened across several different skill levels.
Things having happened is not the same as everyone always struggling with it.
When did I say that everybody always struggles with it? I never said that.
Everyone struggles with it. If it happens,
it does.
Rarely,
yes, every skill level of Siege has struggled with Valk cameras being outside.
They've also struggled with removing electricity off a wall.
That's not the same. That's not the same comparison, but.
Well, okay. if you in low elo can't get through a wall because of bandit tricking, is like we don't need to nerf bandit because of that, right? Like there are certain game mechanics where we as players have to like that's the goal. We have to get over that. Now, good on the Valk thing changing, but these Valk cams, people are still going to struggle with them when they're inside.
For sure. That brings me back to the original point. If that's the case, you don't think no matter what happens in the future, Valk should be touched again? Is that what you're saying?
No, I never in any way, shape, or form.
So said that. Where I go next with Valk is looking at that mechanic as far as
with Valk.
I'm okay. I'm obsessed with Valk.
It will happen. It will happen with Kapkan, right? It will happen with Lesion. It will happen with Ella. Every gadget that you can come up with on defense, even frost traps. Pros walk into frost traps. We don't look at frost traps and say everyone struggles with frost traps. Frost needs to be nerfed. Do we? I don't think Frost needs to be nerfed.
What's Frost's ban rate in Pro League? What's Frost's pick rate in Pro League?
I don't think that's important if we use the struggling with. If it's about struggling, there, Frost is really good.
So has Frost ever prevented a team from entering the map? You know what I mean? Like I listen.
But it's not her job.
Let's move on here, okay? Where I would like to see them go with next with Valk is I would like to see them make her camera mechanics consistent if it's even needed. Let's see what this does to Valk. Maybe you will see her pick rate, presence, and everything come down across the board. Maybe not. But I would like to see them, maybe make it to where a spectator on Valk's cam is different than what Valk herself is. Does that make sense at all?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think an unmentioned part of this is Mozzie with a Twitch drone can do some really interesting things now. Because he gets 10 seconds outside instead of just like 2 seconds before. It was like you didn't have enough. Like, so if you're Mozzie now and you get a Twitch drone, like say, like, I don't know, Consulate Garage or something, you could use that to deny that wall fairly realistically. There's gonna be some interesting stuff going on there with Mozzie.
All those walls already have the drone hole right next to them. Like every single one of the ones you can think of. There are a few ones where you could jump out from a roof, but you would never get your drone back in again.
Yeah.
But those are that's one of those things where if it was ever to become a problem, too many things rely on things lining up for that to ever actually happen that it should never be touched.
Yeah. I'm not
Like
saying it's a
that's what I always
problem.
say
I'm
there.
just saying it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess you could say Mozzie's like the last person that needs a buff, but I'm not talking about that as far as a balance thing. I just think one of the things that's not mentioned is like that aspect. I mean, what about Echo? I mean, is there any like situations you can think of where Echo like could send a
Yes.
drone outside and do some cool stuff for 10 seconds?
But he's struggling because 90% of the roofs that you could jump up on outside are all slanted, which
Yeah,
makes it
it would be
almost
tough
impossible to actually use them for anything else than droning, and
information.
then you'd be better off using anything else. The bulletproof cams are getting terrifying buff.
Yeah. Full field of
Um,
view as well as the zapper.
yeah, and it can stop things on a wall.
Yeah. But
That
again,
that that's scary.
I think that kind of comes down like that stuff is going to work sometimes, but like most is an important word here. Most of the time on most of the walls, if a bulletproof cam is able to disable, then you missed maybe a step or like okay, so you think about like study and villa. If you've got one in there and you're trying to open the wall with the Habana, yeah, like you're gonna need to get control of study before you can do that because the bulletproof cam could zap the Habana pellets, right? And prevent them from going
You can
off.
only have one.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess it could do it with a maybe a better comparison would be an ace Selma, right?
I mean, with an Habana, you just
Or
take one of them, so she has to start over. You just take one hole, like allow them to have the hole, but they can't go through it.
she would only get one pellet though, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
You can mess up a Hibana breach by removing one pellet.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
I just don't
but
know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that bulletproof
it'll
cam
have a
plays.
massive impact because Meister cams have a massive impact even with one shot. And now you can have like 2 Meister cams and 3 bulletproof cams if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be a good combo, but you can set up a lot of this. And even though you miss a step, I think that is almost going directly into my thing of that's on you as a player. But you would have to drone things where all it takes is a mute jammer. Now you need to remove the mute jammer. Then you need to do
Hmm.
some else. Then you need to get a drone in. That drone got shot. You couldn't see the cam. You go for your Hibana. Like it goes so quick where if we have to have a game that both works as a 5 stack versus a 5 stack and as individual solo players, we probably need to separate which one we're focusing on. Because there are things that require 5 stacks to do. It just will not work without. And if we start balancing or accepting that we have to cater too much to the idea that everyone should not rely on other people, like that they don't need to rely on other people, that characters can maybe do a bit too many things by themselves, I think that becomes very bad for the feel of the game. I think operators that can do most, and those are the ones I prefer to play, which is a bias as hell. But I would rather play
Oh, Zeronock just froze.
uh, be nice and not play it.
You just froze for me a second, but I'm good now.
Yeah, you did as well.
Okay.
But I'd rather play the OP stuff if it's there. But if we start neutering everything and making everything so it's not frustrating, then we'll end up at a very weird place because you will.
One of the things that I think is going kind of under the radar with this and talking about the camera changes is cameras overall are getting buffed in many ways. Like, yes, you can no longer throw a Valk camera outside and keep its reception for the whole time. But the change to the Evil Eye is that now players spectating on Evil Eyes can rotate the camera. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. You look at the bulletproof camera, can now disable a gadget and has a much larger field of view as far as rotating it around and stuff like that. That's a big deal. So yeah, I think overall, I mean, you could argue that Mozzie drones are stronger, Echo drones are stronger. Like overall, like cameras are stronger next season.
Yeah.
So
And I think we're at a point where we need like a guide for like no, I'm not kidding. We need a guide for attackers because the amount of people I hear that have the issue with making it to spawn, right? Like the spawn peak stuff. Or being spotted inside. We because that won't change. Like it will never change. It is too much. Like if you fix it, you cause so many other problems. We need like a guide for how to get to the building. As like a public service thing. It has to pop up when you start the game. It needs to be a tutorial of when you get out, there's 3 windows that can see where you are. Aim at the left one first, then aim at the right one, aim at the middle one. Put your drone here, have your teammates spawn there and there. Because with the amount of intel that is going to be inside the map now, you will ask defenders never ever be in the dark about where the attackers are entering. So now instead of maybe fighting them outside, we can just all hold the windows or the doors that they're coming from. I think it's going to be so terrifying with the vision that you can have now and how strong they are utility wise. Because sometimes bulletproof cameras are almost always bulletproof cameras were the best pick currently. And with the new thing, they're definitely going to be the best pick.
for sure. They're
I have
definitely
no idea how they have done all of this without buff and barbed wire. I don't get it.
yeah.
Barbed wire got nerfed and never ever.
Barbed
worth it.
wire has got to be considered the worst secondary gadget on defense now, right?
Yeah,
It
100%.
has to be.
It's not even close. It's useless.
I would even
Clock
take.
mines are pretty bad, but barbed wire is definitely the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Regarding the changes as far as getting inside the map, let me throw this one at you. What if they added a roof spawn to cafe that was over by the garage, on that corner of
Then you got to close off skyline.
It would take about, I timed it. I think it takes about 6 seconds to get from that corner to the skylight.
It's too fast to look into sight from a roof.
See, I don't. Okay, well, explain that.
It is.
Explain that.
Because I can throw something when I spawn. It is too fast to be able to get into sight. I can have a Candela on site within 3.5 seconds.
The backside of it is blocked off. How would you do that without getting line of sight?
Learn how to throw it straight up. It doesn't matter if it's difficult. It matters if it's possible. Because that will happen.
I think, yeah. If you learned the proper arc, I think the opening of skylight would be such that could be possible. So okay. Let me throw this at you. Why is it that attackers have to realize that they're under pressure from the moment they spawn in, but defenders don't?
Because that's the frame of the game.
The frame of the game would be prep phase. I get that. That's why blitz and prep phase was a bad idea.
No,
but when the round starts,
the way because they lose by default if they don't do anything. The time.
Hear me out. When the round starts, why is it crazy for both teams to realize, hey, the round has started. I could be in danger now.
Yeah, I don't get the question. I feel like as a defender, you are already kind of stressed if they're just pushing in fast. Coastline would be a good example. Service door. When they move the spawn a bit further back, it's still terrifying that they can walk up to the side of the building and walk directly into your site with 10 seconds in. The amount of people that get caught, and I mean we can look at any content creator. How often they go, oh, they're already on site. But on the other hand, when we're on attack and we get spawn peaked, they're like, oh, they're peeking. Like we're always surprised. It's always our mistake as players. So we can't fix both of them, right? Like if we make the attackers able to get on site faster, then we're gonna get surprised even more. If we make it the other way around, well, then we're gonna get peaked more. I feel like A lot of that is just player decision, and all changes and turns you can make to it. Like, how upset would you be if you get the roof spawn on Cafe, but people just start standing there with C4?
Well, they could only throw it out. Like that's, I mean, they can do that right now. Like I've died to C4 on that roof before.
Sure, but they could do it a lot faster.
Well, but you're
Like, when you move, you're much closer to potentially get the C4, right?
are
You
you
could
like
spawn in.
are you following where I'm saying the spawn point would be like above the garage, like in the corner of the garage? So like the garage side of Cafe, the corner of the roof above garage, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So if you're there,
Above white stairs.
you would have to come around the front in order to get hit with a C4, or at least the very side of it.
You mean above white stairs, right? Above white stairs window.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What if I jump out the window and throw a C4?
Well, here's the thing. Every other spawn point still exists. So now, so if you're going to do that, well, first of all, yeah, if you're going to do that, you're going to be exposed to the garage spawn. Like you would be.
Yeah, but every jump out I'd ever do, I'd be exposed to somewhere on every map. My point is, this will be too strong for the attackers. If I can start up there and within 2 seconds of the round I can open hatches on the roof, sure, we can say that then you could block it off with something else. But like, I think you can guarantee to get to the roof on Cafe if you go there as a team. We could also have everyone spawn over there, but I think that's just too strong because now we can have all 5 people spawn on the roof and start there and ignore any kind of outside pressure.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Be on Skylight.
That's
be on hatches.
That's the $1 million question: is what happens in a round of Siege if attackers don't have to go through that like awkward first 30 seconds of coming out of spawn and worrying about spawn peaks, and what does a round of Siege look like if that doesn't exist? I don't think we really know.
Well, think about how it would feel from a defending point of view if this was the case, and we say that we're playing Cafe and the bomb site is in kitchen. You have the possibility of spawning on the roof. I am roaming currently on top floor. One of the windows is open. Maybe I'm shooting out a little bit. I don't die, but they know I'm there. Now, without me hearing any repels, my red hatch is open. My flank is caught off there. I go to vault off into bar. There's already a guy on the door to east ramp because he spawned riverside. Like within seconds, I'm completely locked out of moving anywhere if I'm playing against a competent team. Because they don't have to risk anything to get those positions.
The argument I would come back to with that is that as a defender, you still had 45 seconds of full map control before the attacker even spawned in. So when the round starts,
how roaming works.
But when the round starts, if anybody should be ready for the round to start, it should be the defenders, right? Like they've been alive for 45 seconds up to that point already.
Have you never gone, oh my God, there's an Ash here already?
For sure I have.
There you go.
But how much of that is because normally it takes a good minute and a half for the attackers to get inside. Like if the mindset was, hey, as soon as the round starts, attackers can be dropping this skylight within 5 seconds of the round starting, then now am I going to be surprised less? I don't know. We're talking about hypotheticals here.
Apply it to attack when you push and you get spawn peaked. It's the same logic. I'm for both of them. I don't care which one I have to adjust to. I'm completely fine with it. It's just the same logic. It's not going to be fun. Adding that, like, there's a reason that people get upset when there's someone on the roof with 30 seconds left holding the flank. Now, imagine if they could do it the second they start. What about, like, is it only some maps where we can do it? Because then it becomes a balance issue with the actual map. What about Coastline?
Yeah, Coastline, I don't think you could do that. I don't think you could.
What about Clubhouse?
I think if you were going to do it on Coastline, you'd have to look at a spawn point and where you'd have to probably block some of the middle courtyard area off from the roof. Like put some dividers up or something.
Yeah, then the question is, does that actually buff defense, right?
In some situations, well, if it was
it's so difficult.
If it was the only spawn, then that would be a defender buff. I would argue that. If it was the only, if it was the only spawn,
be the only spawn.
Right? Oh,
It'll never be
people
enough
have
because
talked
then
about
attacking
that.
people win.
People in the old because of the E3 trailer, people used to talk about Siege would be so much cooler if a helicopter came and dropped you in like that. I was like, you would die. Like if the defenders knew 100% that where you were, no matter what, at the beginning of the round, they would find a way to leverage that information and kill you.
Yeah, I mean, take the SI map. Their best effort to make a map where you spawn up on a little cross where you could rappel down.
Yep.
I still kill people on the rappel down.
Yep.
Right? Like there is. Sure, maybe they can add it. It'll be horrible for the first start until they figure out how to balance it all out and that. But I'm not against the idea of a roof spawn. I just don't like you can't add it to every map. You can't.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
Then it becomes a balanced decision of do you want to add it to these maps because why? Is it because people have a tendency to get spawn killed there, or is it because of the attacker defender win rate? Like what dictates if it gets it or not? Because there are maps where attack wins a fair amount, but maybe the spawn rate or spawn kill rate is higher, right? So you could have a map where defenders often get spawn picks, but attackers have a higher win rate than the maps where the defenders not so often get the spawn pick. Like that's not a crazy scenario.
For sure.
So if it's to save people from the frustration of getting killed out of spawn, that's one thing. But what if it's on a map where attack is already kind of favored on certain sites? Or the only site that defenders are truly favored on is maybe the top floor. We also got to consider other operators coming out over time. Like you spawn on the roof and you just start florist running site, right? Like
yeah, I think
that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I think I would be interested in trying a spawn on cafe roof.
Yeah, sure.
I think that it might work better if those hatches on the roof were reinforced. That might be a decent trade-off. The skylight definitely presents a problem. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, and if you could work it out to where you could lob a grenade and get it to drop down that skylight and it would be there within 2 seconds, that doesn't feel great. No, it doesn't. And if you think about it, when you look, on the reverse side, as far as like spawn peaks and stuff, we've talked before, like the devs go to great lengths to make sure that when you spawn in as an attacker, you at least have to move out of that position before you can get killed.
Yeah.
So
tank is fixed.
So that plays into it as well. That should be mentioned. I guess my line of thinking though is like if you're a defender and you have 45 seconds alive inside the map to prep, I don't think it's a problem that when that timer hits 0 in the prep phase, okay, I can die now. And I need to take my actions into account. I would be interested in seeing that look.
I'm 100% with you. I think it'd be very nice if we all started doing that through the millisecond that the round starts in general. Like no one is ever gonna get one tapped in the first second, of course. Like that should never happen. That's some sort of glitch or cheat or abuse or whatever. But if we all realize that the second the round starts and even the prep phase, like very important things can happen, right? During the prep phase, you can accidentally C4 a teammate. Like you have to be aware of that the whole time. And then like I have the worst habit of just driving. I am autopilot driving my drone into sight all the time, and I have no idea why. There is no use.
Like in the prep phase?
I just slam it into sight. I find the bomb and my drone dies.
I lose my drone in prep phase way more than I should.
Yeah, it's 100%. The dumbest thing I could possibly do. I should just park that drone at my feet in prep phase, right? Or look at a window and then walk up and pick it up. Like I'd probably win more. I'd probably get better KD. I'd probably rank up as well. Like just changing that little thing would probably make me a much better player. But I just forget all the time. And I get no info. Like I know they have a whatever operator that of course they have because you always have that operator on that side. It's maybe 1 in 10 games where I realize that they have a cav or that they're doing something out of the norm. Because most people do the same setups, the same way, with the same operators. Very little change until we see some like meta changing stuff. But yet, I still throw my drones away all the time. We often have no drones on attack by the time prep phase starts. Like that's not uncommon. 5 of us in like Diamond Elo messed that up. And then we run out and maybe we get into the building and we get C4'd, like right outside the door. And we're all, why did no one drone it? But we all threw our drones away. But we all sit there and think, that was a little bit his fault. It was a little bit that guy's fault. That guy could have droned. Instead of just realizing that, like, we started the whole thing out with just messing up the round. Like, that one thing there should not have been done, and should be fixed first.
It's probably the number one hurdle, in my opinion, of balancing Siege is balancing the game that will allow balancing the game that makes sense at the highest level of play without necessarily hurting the average player. Like you've got the highest level of play with a 5 stack that's got great coordination and knows how to leverage that utility, drones, and everything to their maximum capacity, you know? And you're trying to balance a game that works in that environment with that type of usage for the guy who's down in low gold that doesn't, that might be solo queuing and doesn't leverage it. And I'm not saying that one is right or wrong or that they should prioritize necessarily the gold player over the pro player. I'm just saying I think the utility meta, I think that Castle maybe is a good example of that. The Castle's always been widely regarded at the highest level of being an extremely valuable operator, but actually a hindrance at the lower level. Your average silver player that uses Castle will probably hurt the team more than help the team. The utility meta was a great example of that. I would make the argument that the vast majority of ranked players never actually experienced the utility meta. But the pros definitely were. There's no doubt about it. So I think that and when you look at it that way, I don't envy the people who are trying to balance this game, because that's a tough ask. It really is. It's really two different games.
I think you take the Dota approach of making things so complicated that the lower skill bracket can't figure out how OP they actually are, and then you let the competitive side abuse it against each other. I think that's the best way to do it. Give people enough to do that it is hard to do it correctly without being good at it, because then you can mess around and have fun, because the opponent you're against is not going to play to the full potential either. But if we simplify operators too much, then it gives too much room to just do very simple things. I'd rather see much more complex interactions. Like a castle barricade is a good example. It can, you can put a fuse charge on it, that'll make a hole in it that you can then use as an attacker, right? You could map it open as an attacker to get a line of sight. You could also just keep it there and place a claymore in case they want to try and jump out at another point, or an air jab. You can punch it so it's prepped and get ready with a Blackbeard or whatever on the other side. You can prep punch it and then throw a smoke on it, so when it breaks, they can't actually see that it broke, and then Castle or a Glass can see through. There's so many interactions with that utility, but it just only goes in windows and doors, and that's it, right? If we had something that could go on floors or on hatches that did the same, maybe something you could even put over a reinforcement that acted the exact same way, like a second layer of reinforced wall. We need way more depth in those types of things instead of more. And feels like now the amount of gadgets is the thing we're going towards instead of the complexity. I'd rather see some of that get implemented, where it's just more interactions between different gadgets and operators, than to just keep getting a new operator that has 3 or 4 uses of something. Because then eventually we're just going to have 5 operators in each team that all have 4 of something, because every new thing that came out needed to have an amount that was about the same as the others, because otherwise people wouldn't play it. Right?
Yeah. No, I get you.
If Thorn only had 2, or if Thorn only had 1, no one would ever play Thorn.
Right. Yeah.
She needs 2 or 3 to be even useful, but 4 is too much.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't have a lot of sliders to move with her.
Do you
very limited what they can do.
Do you want to take some viewer questions here as we kind of head towards the end?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Anybody in chat watching this live, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them down there. And yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Zronik. I was just thinking.
No, go for it.
I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling as far as questions in chat and get them start talking while we're kind of finishing up that thought. I think you look at the last few operators. I think that Flores was a really cool operator. What do you think about Flores? Like it was a drone explosive. It's new to the game. It was,
I like that they're. Yeah, I actually think they did that one really, really well, especially because they made them so big that they're actually easy to shoot.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they should move slightly slower. That's the only thing. And maybe 10%. It's a marginal thing, but I think they should be fairly easy to shoot because just you pulling your aim off head level is a big thing. And I think that would maybe make them less strong in lower level as well, but I don't know if they're strong in lower level.
You got any good questions yet?
I'm trying to make sure that I read everything fully enough that I know if it's a question or just people talking.
Or a troll.
Someone asked what we thought about the Outback rework. Like my only thing about that map is I think there's too many soft walls. I don't know yet. Yeah. I haven't spent enough time like setting up and understanding it. I really like Favela. Like I really like Favela. But Outback, there are so many soft walls. It is terrifying me.
I haven't played it enough to really speak on it to say what it's going to be like. Did you notice the they didn't move the static cam from piano, which is now a site? So there's a bomb site.
I don't think I was ever. I know it's a bomb site, but I don't think I was ever actually on the cams.
Okay.
On the map.
There was that camera that was at the top of that staircase. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
They didn't move it. What do you think about a static camera being inside the bomb site?
I don't have any issue with that. Is that the only place where it is?
That's the only one I can think of where there's a. I guess you could say the main lobby of Cafe technically looks into the upper bomb site.
Yeah, and the elevator cam on Bank looks into B bomb site or some of it.
True.
Yeah, I don't really have an issue with that. If anything, I'd actually prefer it's there instead of the room ahead. Because I need to go there anyway, and they don't get any info until I need to do something. So I don't have to worry as much about it. And it might be... There might even be some sort of like full security in it from the defenders, right? That now they don't have to throw a Valk cam on site because there is a default cam. It's always going to be the same plate. And yeah, I don't mind that too much. But the amount of soft walls terrifies me. There's so much of it. Main lobby on Consulate, yeah. I don't know how we even forgot that. And garage on Consulate.
Yeah.
LA basement. Yeah, there are plenty of sites that have default cams on them.
Sidarius says, do you think removing one-shot headshot mechanic is the solution to save Siege? I think you would do more harm to the game if you just straight up removed it. I think everybody's on the same page, right? I don't see anybody arguing that if you like, I would be okay with if the bullet travels through a soft wall, that a one-shot headshot shouldn't exist on like ARs and SMGs. I'd be okay with that. I don't think very many people really argue that.
I think there's a lot of people that would like it to stay the way it is, but I also think there's a lot of people that would like to see it changed.
Well, I think there's
is the remove one-shot headshot because you're not being specific about what it is you want. Like, is it all the time, or is it just on wall bangs? Is it for all guns? Is it on attackers or on defenders? Right? Like, if I shoot someone in the back of the head with a deagle that I snuck up on, is that not a one-shot? Does it need to be two-shot there? Like, it really matters, the specifics of that.
For sure.
Because it's such a big change.
And we don't know.
For a wall,
we don't know how the game would play with that. We really don't. How what that would look like, how that would change the game. All that stuff are huge questions. And I think that's a great point, Zeronic. I think that when people say that, I think that I would... If you're going to ask that question, I would also like you to ask, what would be your goal with that? Like, what would you hope that would change with the game?
Yeah.
because I don't know that people could really provide that answer.
I find it so difficult in that chat because whenever you have the one-shot headshot discussion with people, they can never explain what it is they want, and how to like what is the byproduct of doing this, right? Like, so let's say we remove a one-shot headshot, and now I hold a pixel angle, and I can see your body, and you have to hit my head twice.
Yeah.
You buffed the one thing you wanted to remove. Like I'm in a better position doing that.
Paradigm says, Paradigm asked, how about removing friendly fire?
I'm not against that, but there are some weird balancing issues that will arise.
I think removing it in newcomer and casual, quick match, whatever, is a no-brainer. Ricochet on by default, do it.
Sure, but yeah, Ricochet is then there's still friendly fire, right? Like it's not no friendly fire at all. Like the damage doesn't get ignored. I'm fine with making it just reflect. Although that might still be able to be abused in comp.
As far
the thing I'm afraid of is if I could throw a smoke grenade on top of a teammate defusing and accept that I died, but he would be protected. Stuff like that. There are scenarios where maybe a Goyo shield to make sure that I could sit and defuse, but the attacker couldn't push in because he doesn't have enough HP to go through it. Stuff like that. I want to get away from that, where I can sit and be safe in a fire.
So
and defuse the bomb, right?
I think again, maybe it's better to lay out your goals. If the goal of removing friendly fire is to remove toxicity, and that is to remove friendly fire as a tool for toxicity, then you don't need to remove it in comp because there's toxicity does not exist in comp. But you need
it to be there where you practice though, because you need to get used to the fact that it exists. In my opinion,
I don't think you need to remove friendly fire in ranked or in comp. I think that you could look at removing it and
I'm good with that.
In newcomer and casual. Personally, I think it should be removed in newcomer and casual.
And just that reflection done.
Yeah. And there are some weird scenarios. Fuse presents some interesting scenarios that could happen.
Abandoned sanction because of Fuse because two people decided to run in.
Yeah. There are some weird things that can arise. Yeah. But I think if you're removing that aspect of toxicity, I would almost say it's worth even just graying out Fuse and quick match or newcomer and casual. I would go that far. Like that sucks, man.
So it's only you that takes damage.
I don't know. What do you got? Anything in your chat that you've seen that's caught your eye?
Someone said remove friendly fire only from the guns. I still think like gadgets, like Fuse gadget would be a good one to remove from in casual and all of that. Especially because in casual it's about really having fun. Someone said, how about divided rank queue for stacks and solos? We've been over that one a few times. I think we're all fine with having separate rank systems.
Yep.
No.
Would love it.
No skin off my bones for that one. If I accidentally hurt or deliberately hurt my teammate, I should take damage instead. Yeah. Anything but comp, that's fine, because in comp it could be abused. What happened to the rank rework? Is that this season? Or is that next season? Or is that next year? Or is it in season 15?
I think the ranked rework, the reputation system, and the Goya rework are all hanging out somewhere. There's some Ubisoft dev that has them that has them locked in their desk, okay? And since they're working from home right now, nobody has the keys to their desk, so therefore they cannot get those features into the game until that desk gets unlocked, and that's where they all are right now.
Yeah, I could believe that. Someone said Macy's take on the headshot thing was 5-time multiplier for headshots. Off the top of my head, that would mean that in 99.9% it would still always be a one-shot, and it would only ever have any effect on through walls. So you could just, instead of having the multiplier, you could just say if your bullet has passed through an object, it cannot one-shot headshot. It'll do whatever, 75 damage to you or 90 damage to you, but it will take one more bullet to die. That'll fix most of the frustration. Yeah, I still think you need to be able to compensate for better aim, better reaction time, better crosshair placement by being accurate, and you do that through one-shot headshot. But getting randomly sprayed through a wall sucks.
It does. No
The
doubt
same with
about it.
recoil. I don't like their new recoil stuff that they've been doing with like the jump and forth and back between having a lot of left to right recoil. And I also don't feel like the attachments really do enough to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
Like there's too many people that are asking which attachment to use, which means they clearly don't know what they do. That isn't explained well enough because then they would be able to choose what they wanted to use. At least that's my logic. I would assume that if you had an issue with the gun going left to right, then you'd put on something for horizontal, right? But all of that just seems a little bit like a gimmick in Siege that it doesn't have enough of an impact. I'd really like to see them change that, especially from a new player perspective. Like if I just started Siege now, I would have no idea what attachment to use, why to use it.
You know what would be cool? Well, I don't know if they could do if this is realistic, but when they showed like the recoil model for the gun, like if you equipped an attachment, the recoil model would change and reflect what that attachment is going to do in regards to the recoil.
They tried doing that, right? The little picture there,
yeah,
it changes when it just doesn't show enough. People don't. It's too hard to read. Plus, it wasn't accurate, and I mean, firing range would help. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Test range where you could test all the guns. You just have a recruit, and you can test whatever gun you want. Yeah, I really want that. That would be nice. They explained something during this one with the HUD changes, and he said that in the future you'd be able to change gadget colors and lights during the reveal.
Yeah.
If I understand that correctly, I don't know if it goes to secondary gadgets and stuff like that. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if people should be able to have my frost trap be pink, or all my Capcan traps be light blue, or neon yellow, whatever. There is a little bit of being sneaky, knowing where to place things, and
see, I didn't read it that way. The way that I read it,
gadgets.
Yeah, you're right. The way that I interpreted that is that if the gadget currently has a light, you will be able to change what color that light is.
Yeah, if that's the only thing, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
But I'm almost certain he said gadgets and lights.
Okay. If that's the case, I agree with you. Like that's like, why would I ever be able to change a frost trap to pink? Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That would really mess up a lot of stuff in terms of thinking about where you play stuff.
Yeah.
It would, in my opinion, just dumb down the game by a ton.
Yeah.
Now you just put it there as a roadblock that they have to shoot, and then that's it. But it will never really do anything.
I fully agree.
That would be a shame.
I got an interesting one here. This is, I think, an interesting kind of peak, and I forget, I lost it. But I forget who asked it, but they said, do you think Ubi should do something to speed up the game, like bringing back the old lean mechanics? Something about the game is so slow that it's boring at this point.
No.
So the $1 million question here is, how much of a role do guns play in Siege, and how much of a role do gadgets play in Siege? I think that's how I frame this question. So the person asking this, I think, maybe feels like they want the game to resemble more like Call of Duty, where you go in and you have operators that have guns, and you go in and you shoot the other team. And maybe you sprinkle in a little bit of utility into that mixture there, and that might play a slight role, but it's not going to really like decide whether the round is won or lost.
Also, like, sure, all the operators have gotten slightly slower over time. The quick lean is not there, but the quick lean was not good because it was fast. It was good because it was broken.
The camera placement was also different at that time. That's a huge aspect of the quick lead.
Yeah, so there was a camera placement that was fixed, and it is still an issue. Like that is why CS and Valorant has the whole momentum. Like you got to stop your momentum before you're accurate. It's to stop those like mega annoying peaks. Because even if you have, perfect reaction time, you just cannot win that one. Like you are lucky or you're pre-firing, whatever. If it's two people with the same reaction time doing that, all that quick lean mechanic is insanely strong. Sure, like it's cool to have it in there, but it didn't make the game faster. It just made people peak more. Like, I don't feel like people moved faster through the map. They just stood at a doorway wiggling for 30 seconds instead of holding it. And if you actively play the round instead of getting yeeted off the first 30 seconds, then there's plenty to do. I feel like it's half strategy, half shooter, right?
Well,
the
follow-up to that question was what makes Valorant so much fun is that it's so aim-based like the classic Siege used to be. If I watch Valorant where there's two Vipers on the board, I don't feel like that's the case. Now, what I will agree with the Valorant thing is that the way that you die in Valorant is usually directly because somebody shot you. But I think that's also true in Siege for the most part. But like if you're watching a Valorant match with two Viper pits going, the Viper walls going, the Sova darts going, like that's there. Utility's playing a role there. But I think I understand what they're saying is that it's not like Siege where you're like, well, I died because that Maestro Evil cam was spotting me the entire time and then got me to 50 health because it zapped me and then somebody finished me off.
But it's also not fair because Valorant is not that aim-based. Valorant is about crosshair placement. It's about starting the right.
I think what he's saying is it's gunfight based. Maybe
yes.
Okay.
Siege is insanely aim-based because people can be like 9 million places with punch holes and prone and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like Siege is difficult, and you need to use your utility to get those gunfights. There is, and that goes back to I don't know if you played in year one, but year one was not like just running around and gunning either. Like you got in barbed wire, you died.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was plenty of utility as well. Capcan traps insta-killed you. Like we have plenty of other stuff than aiming. I think everyone just at some point kind of got the setup done quickly, got slightly bored because you knew it was going to take people a bit of time to get to the building, so you wanted to peek a bit. And then you might as well just do it every round. Sometimes you die and then you sit there and spectate and nothing's happening because you can't do anything. So the drone after death or whatever they call that could be kind of interesting. Like, so you have something to do. Because I know people don't like to be on cameras because even in the stacks I play in, half of the time when you get on cameras to check no one's ever been on those cameras, there's plenty of stuff to do. It's not a fast-paced shooter. And I think anything that pushes Siege towards speeding up is going to make it a little bit worse. I think that's why we saw a lot of characters go from 3 speed to 2 speed. And seemingly, I don't know if it's better or worse from the game, if it's faster or not. But I think the game is in a better state now, meta-wise and gameplay-wise, than it has been.
Yeah, I think that's pretty widely accepted.
Yeah, I believe so, though. And if not, I think we asked for it. I think people were saying that the quick lean and 3 speeds needed to be nerfed, and like I feel like every time we've been at a fairly fast-paced stuff, people have kind of wanted it to change away from it. So that one's hard to. I don't know what do we want.
Rave Paul says, do you think the controller players should have a small aim assist so that mouse and keyboard and console can have more of an even footing? I don't see how you do aim assist with a one-shot headshot. That's the problem.
I don't see how you do it with destruction.
Me either. That's another problem.
Because does it actually react for punch hole?
Right. Does it react through a punch hole? Does it trace people through walls? Because I mean, the Call of Duty aim assist will follow a person through a wall. I've had it happen before. So yeah, I don't know how you do that with a one-shot headshot. Like, because if the aim assist is locking you onto the body, as a controller player with high skill, I'm like, no, I want to be on the head.
Yeah.
If it locks on the head, then I'm saying, well, you just gave that person a headshot for free. I don't know how you do that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be. It'd also be very abusable in terms of figuring out where people are, if there's punch holes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think like allowing crossplay in unranked and casual and that stuff, and then just maybe making it ranked or making it like MMR based, but hide the MMR, not telling anyone. So people that are good on controllers will play against people on mouse and keyboard that are not as good, and people that are really good on mouse and keyboard will be stuck playing against each other. It's like, I think you could do that where it's all just based on, do you win or do you lose against the team you were against, and you slowly figure out where everyone is kind of comfortable playing.
It goes back to your point. If you look at ranked as not a way to earn a charm, but as a way to just get even matchmaking, then yes, that mindset works.
Yeah, but that's why it would have to be hidden in unranked, right?
Yeah.
Because you could never do it in ranked. I
Right.
fully concede that it is never going to happen that you're going to have a ranked game mode and that people are going to accept why it's there. Because we look at it and think, oh, we got to get the highest rank. That is the goal. It never is from like making the system. That is not the goal. It's fair matchmaking. Right? It's just to improve the fun level for everyone. And seemingly most ranked games actually end up making people have a slightly less fun, which is weird. Right? The one target is to make sure that people play in a fair and even playing field so they have more fun. That in turn makes us more competitive because we want to know that we're slightly better than the other ones. And then that puts more in the line so we get more tilted when we play. It's super weird. And then you play unranked, you might actually be against the same people. You might win against the people in unranked that you couldn't beat in ranked, even if you both played the exact same way, because the pressure just isn't there.
True. That's very true. What else you got? Anything?
Opinions on leaks being a norm. I will happily.
You will happily what?
That's my take on. I will happily say fuck them to everyone that leaks stuff. That's my take on leaks. It is one thing if it was in a very off in the void kind of thing where you had to go and search for it to find it. But the spoiling thing where people share it on Twitter and it's everywhere, like I just unfollow and block people if I see leaks.
Yeah, I try to stay away from as well. Everything's so much more fun whenever you are truly surprised.
Yeah, I want to be surprised about them, and even like it's kind of like having someone open your Christmas present for you. I just don't like it, and everyone is doing it for their own glory. No one ever leaking anything to be nice. They're doing it because they get attention, right? And I really don't like that. Then there's the whole mouse and keyboard on console. I think that's about it.
All right, man. All right, well, guys, this episode, if you missed some of it, it'll be live tomorrow on the Logic Bomb podcast channel. If you're watching this on the podcast apps or YouTube, we appreciate you. Make sure if you want to watch one of these live, both Zeronic and I stream it on our Twitch channels. Yeah, so if you want to tune in live, you come join the crowd. Maybe your question will get answered on the next episode. With that said, I guess we'll sign off. And
any primers?
I guess we'll see you guys on the next one.